Hey, it's Liz from No Trace. A while back, I tried to recreate a bag that I saw on Pinterest, and I shared that here on YouTube. It didn't turn out exactly as I wanted, so this time I have redone it with some new measurements, a few new colors in my bag, and I think you are really gonna like the way it turns out. So let me walk you through it. I'm gonna walk you through the materials I used to make a 2.0 version of this project bag. So the first thing was I have 2 panels of fabric that are 13 inches by 13 inches. All of these measurements are in the description box below this video, so just click in there to snag them. These 2 panels are pieced together from scraps of fabric that were anywhere from 1 to 3 inches tall. And if you want to see how I patchworked my panels, you can check out my other video, which I will link to right here, that shows you how to create this patchwork panel. You can also just use a 13-inch by 13-inch piece of solid fabric for the outside of your bag. I have 2 pieces of liner fabric that are 13 inches by 13 inches, 2 pieces of organic cotton that are also 13 inches by 13 inches, 2 straps that I'm going to use for the handles that are 12 inches long, and these are just cut from cotton webbing. If you want to make your own straps, I also have a tutorial that shows you how to make your own straps. I'm going to link to that tutorial right here. I'm also using a couple yards of organic cotton cording, but you could also use ribbon, and another scrap of fabric that I'm going to use to create the channels for the top edge of my bag to put the drawstring through. The first thing I'm going to do, after obviously I've created these patchwork panels already, is to quilt the panels one at a time onto the cotton batting. And this step is definitely optional, but I really like the texture that the quilted stitches give to the bag. So I'm going to go ahead and sew several rows of stitching. Once the panels are quilted, which you can see I've finished, I'm going to go ahead and construct the channel that the drawstring will go through at the top edge of the bag. Now, I am using scraps that are 13 inches long and about 2¼ inches tall. But you could definitely make your channel even shorter than that or even taller than that. And all you need to do is fold over the short ends about 1/2 inch and then another 1/2 inch and press and sew so that you have finished ends on the 2 short ends of your 2 channels. Okay, I've sewn the short ends on both of the channels. So I'm going to go ahead and fold them in half lengthwise. And now I want to center the channel at the top edge of my bag. You could definitely get out your ruler, or you can eyeball it, which is what I'm doing. And I'm going to go ahead and pin my drawstring channel onto the top edge of each of my bag outside panels. Now that the casing is pinned in place, I'm going to take my handle and it's going to go in between the casing and the outer panel. And I'm going to use a ruler and I'm going to actually place it 4 inches away from this side edge. So I'm going to measure over 1, 2, 3, 4 inches. And then right at 4 inches, I am going to pin this in place. And I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. So I'm going to count over 4 inches, 1, 2, 3, 4. Place my handle right there where 4 inches is, pin it in place. You can definitely modify all of these measurements if you want your handle to be further apart, closer together. You can make your handle longer. I wouldn't go a whole lot shorter than 12 inches, but feel free to customize this and make it your own. All right, I'm going to repeat the getting the handle on this part of the bag as well. And then I'm going to go to the machine and I'm going to baste along this top edge about 1/8 to 1/4 inch away so that I can take all these pins out for the next steps. All right, these are sewn together. I just wanted to point out that I reinforced where the strap is with extra rows of stitching. So you're going to want to really secure that in place. And now it's time to put these two pieces together. So we want them right sides together. And I am going to add a little no trace tag over on the side because I like to do that. And I'm just folding that in half. I'm going to place it about 3 inches down from the top edge here and pin that in place. And I'm going to add a few more clips around this bag so that everything is lined up nicely. Now, this next step is how I like to give depth to the bottom of my bag without having to cut off corners and create waste. So I'm going to be sewing the bottom edges together, and just the bottom edges, with a 1/2 inch seam allowance. Bottom edges are joined together. Now I am going to fold the bottom edge up 2 inches from this bottom seam here. So I've got my ruler out and I'm going to just fold it to 2 inches, and then you can double check that you got the right height there. And this is going to create the boxed corners without having to cut fabric away from the bag. I'm going to repeat that over on this side. So I want 2 inches from my bottom seam to my folded edge. And then I'm just going to go ahead and clip it together. And now I'm going to sew the side seams for my bag. So I'm just going to sew down this side with a 1/2 inch seam allowance, and then this side with a 1/2 inch seam allowance. And I'm going to go through all those same steps with my liner fabric, which is the same measurements. So I'm going to join them at the bottom, fold it up, and sew along the sides. I finished sewing the side seams on the outer layers and the inner layers. So now it's time to put everything together. And the first step is to turn one of your layers right side out. So I like to turn my inner layer right side out, keep my outer layer wrong side out, so it's a little bit more of a surprise for you. And then I'm going to go ahead and put the bottom edge of my inner layers into my outer layers. And you don't really need to worry about fluffing this out to create that depth yet. We'll do that at the very end. And I do want to line up the side seams. So I like to open them on the outer fabric and the inner fabric and line them up. And then I'm going to go ahead and put a clip right here. Repeat that on this side of the bag. So open up the side seams and line them up with each other. And then I'm going to put a few more pins in this top edge and take it over to the machine. And I'll show you at the machine how I sew this top edge. All right, the top edge is clipped and pinned. There's the opening of the bag, or sort of the big inside part of the bag. So I'm going to be starting near the side seam over here. And I am going to get this edge, one edge of the bag under the presser foot. I have a knee bar, which makes this a lot easier to do. Make sure the fabric's lined up here on the edge. I probably should have used a few more pins, but I guess I was feeling impatient. Okay. Now I am going to do a back stitch here, and I'm going to go all the way around this edge with a 1/2 inch seam allowance, except I'm going to leave an opening back here in the bag so I can turn the whole thing right side out. So let's start. I'm coming back to near my starting stitches right here, which you can kind of see there. So I'm just going to go a little bit more and then do a back stitch and stop so that I have this whole side edge to birth the bag through. Okay, time for the big reveal. It's not quite finished, but we're going to get to really check out our bag here. So I'm just turning it right side out through the opening that I left in the top edge. And then I'm going to want to make sure to iron it at the top edge as well. So let me get this pushed out. Oh, it's so cute. I love this bag. Okay, and then we push the liner into the outer panels. Give it a little shake. And then we need to go ahead and iron the top edge, but oh, it's so cute already. Okay, so I want to iron all around this edge, and then we're going to do a top stitch so that the opening is closed, but also just to give it one final little finishing seam. Okay, the final step. I've got 2 strands of my cord that are both about 24 inches. You could use just 1 strand if you want, but I like the look of 2. So I'm gonna go ahead and use this little threading tool, but you could use a large safety pin if you don't have one of these. I think it's called a bobkin. So I'm gonna go ahead and thread the drawstrings through so that I have a knot on each side. So I'm just gonna go all the way through the channel and then through the other channel. And then I'm gonna tie the first string together, and then I'll repeat that with the second string, but obviously I want the second string not to be on the opposite side so that you can pull the bag closed from both sides. It's done! I love it! And I think it's way closer to the original inspiration than my very first attempt at this bag. Just goes to show you that keep trying until you get it the way you want it. And if you're looking for more fun scrap busting projects like this one, I'd love for you to check out my membership. Just click the join button to learn more.